I love playing obscure openings to catch my opponents off guard and beat them because they don't know what to do. In this video, I'm going to show you an extremely surprising variation in an opening that we all know. We're going to play with the white pieces, and pay attention because this variation will bring you a lot of joy, just like it has for me. We're going to start with the bishop's opening, one of our favorite openings. You know that the most popular thing here is to first develop the knight, gaining the initiative to attack this pawn right here. In many videos, we have talked about this bishop's opening, but in all of them, we look at the knight f6 response, right? Why? Because since we don't gain the initiative by attacking anything, our opponent might think, I'll move this knight while attacking this pawn here. We've seen it in several videos on the channel. If you want, after watching this video, you can go check it out. Because in this video, we're going to focus on what happens if they develop the other knight and also the bishop, which is one of the most popular variations in the bishop's opening. First, we're going to develop this knight here, and as I just said, we'll assume they don't develop this knight because we already know how to respond, but instead they develop this bishop to c5, which is very popular. Here, we're going to take advantage of the fact that we haven't developed this knight to play the brutal move. Pay attention now, queen g4. This is going to be the move we focus on in this video, because it's a move that's practically impossible to stop, especially if your opponents have an elo under 2300. It's a very strong move that's allowed me to win so many games, sorry, I can't even speak, that I haven't even had time to count them. What are we threatening here? Very well, we're threatening this pawn on g7, that's obvious, but we have several hidden threats that your opponent won't notice here, okay? The good thing is that since you've seen this video, when you play the game, especially if it's a Blitz game, you'll have it all planned out, and your opponent will waste too much time thinking of a possible solution that will never come. If I ask you, alright friends, how would you respond to this attack? How would you defend against the threat of queen takes g7? Because this threat is quite strong. If our opponent says right now, well, you know what, I'll play d6 attacking your queen, and I don't care if you take here, we'll simply capture on g7, and not only that, but this queen will be in quite a bit of danger. If they try to bring the queen over here, we could also trade or even jump in with the knight at some point, and this would be a complete steal for us. Sorry, the queen's over here. So it's obvious that they should defend this pawn. Think about how you would do it. I'm sure very few of you would think of playing king f8. Why? Because it's a move where we move the king too early and we lose the ability to castle. Seems like a very bad move, right? Well, let me tell you that it's the least bad of them all. That is, all of those who thought of king f8, well, you have something going for you. It's the least bad move of all to say it. But anyway, there's something here that gives us a lot of joy in this position that almost no one, for me, of course, no one has answered king f8, but they've always given me two main options. The first one is g6. Why? It directly defends this point, but it logically has a downside. That later, this bishop will be able to enter through the dark squares in a way that's too strong. Remember well that when all the pawns are on light squares, the dark squares suddenly become a very strong weakness that we can exploit with our pieces, especially with knights and bishops. Which bishop would be used to exploit this? Logically, with the dark square one. That's why many people here say, well, this attack here doesn't bother me at all, because I have an extremely strong move, which is queen f6, which not only defends the g7 point, but also develops the queen, and in such an active way that I'm threatening queen takes f2, thanks also to our bishop. See? Here, I'm sure many of you would already say, my opponent got the answer right, my attack was for nothing, but let me tell you one thing. Your opponent is already completely lost simply for having played queen f6, which seems like the most logical move of all. What is our response? Defend this point here? Now, right? Our correct response is to make the following move. Knight d5. We're going to centralize this knight in such a way that we're making two extremely strong threats. What's the first one? the threat to the queen. And what's the second one? The threat of knight takes c7, we attack the king and we attack the rook, and we would manage to win either the queen or the rook. So this threat seems like it can't be stopped. But here you'll say, let's see, chesterture, but you're literally hanging. This queen takes f2. Defended by the pawn, and now they're coming in with too much force, and besides, they always have time after defending. Well, no, because these are simply hallucinations for our opponent. They're not really threatening us with anything. Yes, they're giving us a check, it's true, we must move the king. But once the king has moved, how would you continue attacking this king, this white monarch? No way. Because the bishop defends these two squares, the queen cannot penetrate, and there is no possible way to check our king. So let's think about something here. What are we threatening exactly? Well, we're still threatening queen takes pawn, winning the rook, and we're also threatening knight takes pawn check, winning the other rook. In other words, our opponent can't save themselves anymore. For example, let's see. What are the most common responses and how to win right away? Since they can't defend against both, many people say, well, I'll just keep developing and attacking with my pieces, so that maybe I can jump in with my knights and end up delivering mate over here. But this would obviously be a complete mistake. Simply put, we should punish it with queen takes pawn, okay? Important, if they bring out this knight, take right here. Don't come and take here because they're attacking our queen, we're threatening the rook, and we're threatening the knight with two pieces. Meaning the rook has to move no matter what, and once it does, this knight will be completely ours. And not only that, but once we capture this knight, we're also threatening knight takes c7 again. So let me walk you through a possible variation. They have to move the rook to g8, threatening the queen. Queen takes knight. If they trade queens, then we do knight takes queen, check, we take the rook, and if they don't trade and move it, we could continue with knight takes c7, winning this rook. I don't want to dwell on this variation too much because it's pretty obvious, right? That we'd come out ahead even if they played knight to ef6 in every case. Many opponents, you know what they do to me? They tell me, well, let's see if he doesn't notice in this very messy position and I'll play d6. Hoping he'll say, he gives me this check, I move the king and take the rook, and he doesn't realize this bishop is aiming at the queen. So what should we do if they play this d6? Well, it's very simple. Logically, once again, capture this point here with drastic consequences, because you tell me how on earth they're going to save this rook. In fact, there's no possible way to save it. So logically, d6 is a mistake that's totally easy to punish. Now then, chess teacher, is there any halfway decent way to defend this? Well, there's a pretty interesting move that defends everything. Pay attention and see if you can fight it. Whenever you want to study with me, you can pause the video and try to find the moves, and then hit play again to see if you got it right based on what I say. The idea is that if we attack here and we attack here, there's a move that, once again, is king to ef8, the saving move for black in this variation, both at the beginning and now, which defends the g7 point, and not only that, but we wouldn't win the rook here either, just a pawn. Knight takes c7, now the rook would simply move away, and we'd have equal material because we've lost the f2 pawn, and they would have lost the c7 pawn. But friends, I'm bringing you one of the secrets of this variation. Not only do we have the threats of this pawn, but we have a much more serious threat, which is the threat of the queen on f2, which has tried to enter in a way that's too strong. And now we can punish it with this tremendous move right here, knight h3. Our opponent thought that he had everything defended, and now it's our turn to threaten his most important piece, which is the queen. Knight h3, and as you can see, there's simply only one square available for the queen. If not, you can pause the video and see it, huh? The only available square is queen d4. Alright? There's no other possible square for that queen without it being lost. The idea is that now they're threatening this bishop on c4. Many of you would say, well, here I play c3 and I win the queen. Careful, because you're losing the bishop on c4. The correct move is to play d3. Very well, the sun is coming out here through the window. It's a beautiful day. I hope you can see the board well. I think it'll look fine, huh? And if not, well, I apologize. How should the black pieces continue here? Well, be careful because now the threat really starts to be very, very serious. If our opponent now makes a completely stupid move, like for example, h6, right? Which does absolutely nothing. Any other would work, huh? We're threatening c3, now winning the queen for real. What? Because this queen has no possible square. So here, there's only one way to try to save this queen. And I'm going to show it to you in a game that reached this position, and white ended up winning in very few moves. How did the black pieces do it? Well, logically, they had to give this queen an escape route, and they did it with this bishop move, bishop b6, so that this bishop solidifies, how do you say it? Solid eye rises, or whatever you call it, with the queen. I don't even know how to speak to leave it at square. Bishop b6. And now, if we were to play c3, this queen could simply move away. See? It's left at its square, but then here we have so many threats that we can keep pressing. Our position is wonderful. How did the white player doing? Rotfon. What a beautiful move, right? It threatens the f7 point where the king is, and with x-rays, it also threatens it with the bishop. The threats here would start to be too strong. For example, moving this knight and coming to give this check with the rook, when the king moves, taking this pawn with the queen, winning the rook. So here black must do something to prevent this type of entry. The idea is that the main move would be to defend this capture here, and black did it with f6. And do you know how the white pieces finished the game here in a totally beautiful way? Exactly. Knight takes f6. Why do these types of sacrifices work? Because look, chess teacher, I often sacrifice pieces in games and then I end up losing because I tried to be too clever. The clear idea is that here, by capturing this pawn, what we're doing is opening up lines toward the king. And when we open lines with so many pieces available, the idea is that it should almost always work. And here, white calculated one step further. Here, it's true that this knight can be captured, and on top of that, it's still defended by the pawn. But here, white followed up with this wonderful move. Bishop h6, in such a way that, what? This knight can't capture the queen. Why? Because it's pinned by the rook. This bishop can be captured, yes, and in fact they captured it. It's just an exchange. You take my bishop, I take your knight. However, the game ended in 2 moves, because the king simply has to move out of check, and now, come on, let's see if you can guess the winning move. You can pause the video, and now I'm gonna say it. Here, the winning move is the following: Queen g7, and there's no way to save this rook on h8. And not only that, but once this rook on h8 is captured, whether it stays there or tries to escape, we'd end up delivering a massive checkmate. Pay close attention to this example, because it's actually a game that I played myself, okay? I played this position we're talking about, and suddenly I hit him with this queen g4, a very strong threat. I have to admit one thing, I don't think my opponent was very prepared for this move. But then again, who is prepared for this move? Had you guys ever studied it before? Probably not. My opponent didn't play queen f6, but instead played the most logical one of all, g6. Wait? This happened in a Blitz tournament. That is, in a fast-paced game tournament, okay? g6 was played, and here you must keep something very important in mind. You can't make the mistake here of letting them play this move, d5, because you'd lose a piece. Got it? If you play, for example, knight d2, or let's say knight e2, you'd simply lose a piece with d5. They attack your bishop, and they also attack your queen. So here, when they play the g6 variation, which they'll play against you a lot, you should do the following. Queen f3, it's that simple. You move the queen off the white bishop's diagonal, and not only that, but you're also threatening checkmate, the well-known scholar's mate, right? With queen takes f7, so here my opponent responded with knight f6, a good move. How should you continue once you get here, which you always will when they play g6? My idea, and it's a very powerful one, is to play this knight to e2. Now, you'll see why, okay? And now, for example, after the move d6, which almost always comes because they need to develop this bishop, you can do two things. Either let them play bishop g4, which I actually love when they do because absolutely nothing happens, or if you're really afraid, you can play h3. Nothing out of the ordinary, right? You play h3 and they can't come through here. But honestly, I prefer going on the attack. So what I did was play d3 to bring in my dark squared bishop. My opponent obviously saw the opportunity and came here to attack the queen. What do? I move it away, and now I'm going to threaten this bishop, and careful I don't trap it at some point. That's why my opponent says, look, you know what? I'm going to trade this bishop for the knight. It's a logical idea because since he has all his pawns on light squares, the light square bishop won't be that good. So here I'm going to recapture with the knight. And now the position is becoming very interesting. My opponent played knight h5. I'm going to crush him shortly. Huh? You're going to see such a beautiful way to beat him. This knight threatens my queen, but I'm not worried. I just move back here and watch out because I'm threatening checkmate again. So, well, my opponent castles, and now I move in with the bishop. Look what a great move. And this is how you take advantage of the weak squares. See? I'm threatening a rook, which can't move. This rook can't leave because it has to keep defending the f7 spot, since it's being attacked by the queen and rook, so there's only one move to save the rook, and that's knight g7. And now what? How does the game continue if it seems like he has everything defended? Well, here I go. h4, the good news is that we haven't castled yet, and this rook can join the attack by opening the lines with h4 and h5. Also, if you're afraid of this, you can always castle queenside at some point in the game, and you'll be doing great. Watch out, because here my opponent spent a long time thinking and didn't know what to do. Suddenly, he has nothing here to save himself from our attack. So he brought his other knight to e7 to bring it into the defense, and well, I didn't think twice. h5, if my opponent decides to capture with the knight, then I can capture the rook. Thank you very much. If my opponent decides to capture with the pawn, then I'll simply continue with bishop takes d7, king takes d7. And this position is going to be completely winning since neither the pawn nor the knight will be there. The king will be completely exposed and it's going to end in checkmate. But that's not what happened in the game. My opponent said, I don't want to open up the whole position. I want to play, for example, queen d7 and see what you do. But my hands didn't shake and I started with bishop takes knight, king takes bishop. And now checkmate is imminent. Look, what a beautiful move. h6. The king can't escape. He has to go back. And now queen f6 would end up winning the game because the mate is completely unstoppable. They'd have to sacrifice the knight, and it wouldn't do any good because we capture it, and then the mate would be inevitable again. So after this h6, my opponent resigned the game. If you liked this video and want more videos like this, all you have to do is leave a like. Let me show you this app that I use to study my lines. As you can see, you have a lot of courses available. In fact, with the free plan, you have several courses available. For example, let's study the Rosalimo, which actually looks a lot like the opening I'm bringing you today, right? You can study all the lines. As you can see, this would be one line, and you have up to 18 in this opening. Then you can practice it, you can do a speed run, play, analyze it, do puzzles, a ton of things. And this app doesn't just have courses, it has quizzes, puzzles, a lot of original things that will be great for studying. So if you want to try it out, you can find it right down here in the description. And I'll see you tomorrow in the next video. Bye!